Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Environment Sustainability Committee meeting, Tuesday, August 26th, here at City Hall. Call to order. Declarations, conflict of interest. Seeing none. Approval of the agenda. We have one item on the agenda, approved by Councillor Beck, second by Councillor Tweel. Any approval of minutes from July 29th, 2025. Approved by Councillor Beck, second by Councillor Tweel. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we go right into reports and discussions. We have one item on here. Fall tree order, request for quotes award. Simon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Do that, Mr. Chair. I'll move the motion. So
Wait,
we'll have
what
the-
motion?
to approve the
Huh?
recommendation.
For the award?
Yeah.
Well, we have to hear it first, don't we?
No, you can do that when the motion's on the floor, as opposed to having a discussion before and after. So, have the discussion while the motion's on the floor.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd like to hear Simon's give the report and then we'll do the motion on the floor.
Then you're gonna have a discussion again. That's usually.
What?
Anyway,
Go ahead, Simon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be as brief as possible. The city requested a quote in July for our annual fall tree order. This is our order for our large caliper trees that are planted by our public works tree crew using equipment. We had two submissions from Coolbreeze Farms and Dutch Master. The submissions were assessed based on scoring criteria identified in the RFQ. Dutch Master scored higher than Coolbreeze and were also significantly lower in the for their cost as well. So the recommendation is to award the RFQ to Dutch Master Nurseries Limited.
How many trees are in the,
It's 150, I believe.
50 trees? And what caliper? Sorry.
60 mil.
Any other questions?
Yeah. So it was mentioned here that door hangers are put on houses or streets are being planted. Is it the public works crew that goes around and identifies areas for potential planting and then they notify, or how does this all work?
So through you, Mr. Chair, essentially our team, so Morgan and Julia identified the spaces for planting from our side of things. At the same time, we also get feedback from residents. Also, they can email in for requests for have street trees put on their property as well. So we look for opportunities and we receive information from residents and we put the two together to see what we can do in any given order. We also factor in trees to be planted in parks as well, and obviously post Fiona there's a great need for a lot of those parks to be replanted as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we try and do as much of each kind of pot as we possibly can.
Okay, and what percentage would you say is allocated to department ideas, and like if we have 150 trees, how many of those would be staff's ideas or how many would be residents' requests?
Typically would be biased towards the residents' requests as much as we can, because they're easy to do because we have a partner that's willing normally to help and is in support of them. So typically we're biased towards the residents' requests. But what I will say about that though is that the residents' requests have to come in a time for us to be able to do them. So we have to put the RFQ out in July, which means we have to know what trees we're planting in June. So if a resident requests in August or September for a tree, we wouldn't be able to really plant, if we can plant that, until the following spring.
So if I'm a resident, how do I know that even this is available for, like how do I get that information? Like,
On the website, there is there's a form to fill out to request a tree, and we do get those frequently. It's fairly prominent on the website, and I think that's typically where most people go when they are thinking about, if they would like to request a street tree, they'll look it up and.
okay. Is this the sort of thing that, because they probably come in, given the timeline on this, they probably start coming in the spring, do they? Is that when you start receiving them?
They come in all year.
Okay.
For you, Mr. Chair, they come in consistently throughout their year. I would say there's rarely a week goes past when we don't receive them, even December and those periods. There's obviously slower periods. Probably February is the slowest, but
So could we periodically post this option on our social platforms, just so that, because I'm always looking at the city website, and if there's things, I like to share them through that way and try to lead people to the website, because some people may not be that familiar with it or even know where to go, so. And as we know, our website is not the most user-friendly in the world, so if we can do things to create awareness about it, I'm sure we're able to meet demand, but I mean, not looking to bombard it, but if we do one in the, I don't know, January and April or something like that, just because that's kind of, typically, do we do this order around this time of year?
this order, yeah.
Yeah, so this order will be upcoming, so get people thinking about it and give a little bit of promotion to the whole cause. I think it's great. One other thing, are the trees planted on private property or in public right of way?
Through you, Mr. Chair, they are planted in the public right of way, or parts of city
Sure,
property.
yeah, okay. So are we getting away from trees being planted on private property? Just because of some of the issues that we've had, is that kind of a new direction that we're going in?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Well, we've only planted on private property when we had a specific program for it. So the relief program was
Oh, right.
a specifically contained program that was funded by Tree Canada. That was why we were able to do that particular program.
But those trees become the property of the property owner
Correct.
after, I think, a year, am I correct on that?
Oh, Sorry,
When the relief program,
Relief, yeah,
like
you
we're the-
paid $20 for the tree.
yeah, we
they
paid
own
the tree, that becomes the property owner's responsibility after the
instantly.
planting. We're just facilitating the planting process. Okay. Thank you, go ahead.
Alright.
Sorry.
Motion moved by Goat.
Can I just add two things?
Yeah.
To Councillor Beck's comments. So regarding the door hangers, so to answer that question, those are put on by the E&S department. So as Simon said, Morgan and Julia will check out the sites, and if the site is deemed suitable and we plan for a planting, they'll put a door hanger on.
Just to let them know.
Just to let them know. So they also do things like do the locates, make sure the site's suitable, has
Yeah.
enough space to grow and all of that stuff. And we do social media posts to promote that page on the website.
Okay,
But oftentimes if we have more requests than we can deliver, then we'll hold off on the post so we don't disappoint people. So usually it's timed with when we need more requests for sites. So Morgan and Julia had shared that they have more than enough site requests for this fall. So for next year, we'll put out the call again to get more
and I
input.
think that's fine, that's a good news story.
Yeah.
I think it's just a question, if I'm a resident, I may not even be aware that this program exists.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's really just creating awareness that I may not have a desire right now for a tree, but might trigger something and say, you know what, I think I'll apply for that next year.
Yeah, for sure, we can definitely do some posts. Thank you.
Is there any feedback from the residents with the door hangers going on the doors? Is this the first year they're doing the door hangers? No. And
No,
is there any
always.
feedback coming back to people for positive or negative to kind of score the feeling for the trees?
Oh. For you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, almost automatic. I would say that for the most part, people are generally pleased. Occasionally, we do get people raise a concern with our suggestion that we're going to put a tree at the end of their road. We try to accommodate that if we can. If there's a reason why we particularly want a tree there. We'll have a more in-depth conversation at that point. But for the most people, I would say that the tree adds aesthetic value and certainly improves property value.
Alright, thank you, Simon. Moved by Councillor Twill to move on to council, seconded by Councillor Beck. You have a question too? Sorry,
It's okay, it's okay. As you know, Jessica, I've advocated, for the last year, maybe 2 years. You know, first of all, these trees are to be planted on the public's right of way, not on private property. At one time, a number of years ago, there was a program where the city did provide trees for private property, and people would plant these trees in front of their homes. That was a tradition, that was a practice, that was well utilized. A lot of people participated in that program. I'm not sure what the name of the program was because that was done before my time. I'm talking, you know, a number of decades ago, because I see a lot of these trees on people's properties. Even though the front lawns are relatively small, trees have been planted. So I'd love to know what the name of that program was, if we could ever, there's gotta be some tree history of a program that the residents were able to take advantage of. So, contact the city, and the city would drop off a tree or help them plant the tree on their front lawns. I'd love to know what the name of that program was and what the terms of reference was and how it actually worked. If we could ever do some research on the history of what that program was what it consisted of.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I can speak to a couple points on that. So in the 6 years I've been here, we did do that once, and that was in response to Fiona,
Yeah.
where we wanted to encourage people to plant trees, and we did it knowing that it wasn't gonna be a city tree that we could control or manage. And so we did deliver that program. I have seen in past records before my time where they did do a similar program. But the comments of concern were that the city was spending taxpayer dollars on private homeowners' property where we could invest that money and they could plant the tree, and the next year it could cut down and not be a good investment. Whereas if we spend the money to put those trees on city property, we have the ability to protect them and maintain them and water them and those kinds of things. So it has been done before, it hasn't been a very lengthy program. Again, in 6 years, we've done it once before, but if it's something that council wants to put budget and staffing and resources to, we could.
First of all, I'd like to get the history.
Yep.
I'd like to get that historical information that was done a number of years ago, how it worked, what has been the results of the program over, 35, 40, 50-year period. Those trees still there? Some of the residents had them cut down. If they were cut down, why were they cut down? Did they cause any problems for, roots? Let's say into the water and sewer infrastructure. Mr. McKeown would be able to give you a synopsis on that. But it was a program that a number of residents in our city, throughout the city, and I'm talking particularly the old city that I'm aware of, there was a program in place. And it was well received. Secondly, as you know, I've talked about trees being planted on the city's right of way, and that's what this program's all about, correct? And as you know, Jessica, I've talked about the Walton Drives and the Upper Prince Streets. I've talked about looking at a plan to see how planting new trees on the city's right of way would enhance the streetscapes, the ambiance, the aesthetics. I talked about maybe these new trees. I don't know if we can ever have the tree stock that we had on the Walton Drives, or even University Avenue for that matter, which was Elm Avenue when I was born. A lot of those trees come down because of the Dutch elm disease. And I don't know if, I think this is a great start. I'd like to see a program that's truly comprehensive, where we could go into a street like the Walton Drives and besides the door knockers, really engage with the community. Could be a neighborhood meeting, we bring in the experts, we have Simon, yourself, and say, okay, if we looked at a street like Walton Drive, for example, as a pilot project, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities that we could plant trees up and down that street? Not interfering with the city's infrastructure, but enhancing, again, from an aesthetics, from an ambiance, and it makes so much of a difference. We see new subdivisions being constructed. You drive through these new subdivisions, there's no trees. There's no trees on these streets. And something, to my mind, is drastically missing compared to what we have in the old city. So I bring up Walton Drive, I bring up Upper Prince Street as prime examples. These to my mind, they're good examples. What was there, for 150 years, and what could we try to do to recapture, the type of tree stock that was there? So again, it's comprehensive. It would take a lot of work. That's something I would like to work on. As you know, I brought this up before. I think it'd be well received by the community. I really do. So, and then segue into, as you know, I've always talked about tree stumps where on private property. I'd like to see a program where we help the residents take down a tree stump because of Fiona and then plant a new tree. If we could ever do something like that, I would be all in favor of a program of that magnitude. That's for future considerations. But I just wanted to table that, and I thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I can just,
I just want one comment on when you say with the new developments, I think that's gonna go back to planning, so when the permits are set out for these subdivisions.
Yeah.
It should be in the act saying that they have to plant so many trees, not leaving it up to the residents.
Okay. Now, is that on private property or is that on public cities right away?
Either or,
Okay.
I think it should be up to the developer should be made to do something other than that 10% of parkland. And I forgot to acknowledge, and thank you for the deputy for sitting in on our meetings.
Yeah, welcome.
So, Jessica.
I was just gonna make a couple points, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Tweel's comments. Definitely there needs to be some efforts put into getting tree cover in these neighborhoods that have really narrow streets and right of ways. And when Simon and the crew did do the private land tree planting program after Fiona, on that we specifically identified the neighborhoods like you mentioned on that and said we will prioritize these neighborhoods if these homeowners would like a tree. So those people were prioritized to get a $20 tree if they wanted one, and that's what we did deliver on. And then we did deliver on a private stump removal program as well, paired with the $20 tree.
Yeah.
And we did offer that for a year. And towards the end of it, there was next to no applications coming in from the homeowners to use it. So when we went to council, we recommended not budgeting for that program again because it's a bit of a slippery slope to continue to pay for private land tree maintenance, which is not normally a municipal service, but more of an emergency assistance response. That was what it was intended to be with support from the province. So it had a shelf life and kind of ended, but if that's, it's not for me to decide if council wants to do tree stump removal on private property, but that is a whole other program that we normally don't deliver on that.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I'd like to explore that because there's an enormous cost. And again, we still have tree stumps that are left from Fiona. Yeah, maybe then, I know some residents maybe didn't fill out an application, but nonetheless, they contact us as their representative. And I'd like to kind of revisit that. I don't know what the scope would be, but I'd like to revisit that, to be perfectly honest with you. I'd like to revisit that. I'd like to assist some of our property owners, because so much damage was done from Fiona. Damage done to their properties, you know, the backyards, the front yards. People are still, you know, trying to get contractors to do some repairs to their homes, you know, externally. So I just like to have an open mind. I'd like to explore that, because I think, you know, we're still feeling the effects of Fiona. You cut the cards whatever way you want. We're still feeling the effects of Fiona. And I don't want our residents to be, you know, in a straitjacket. Well, you know, it's too late, you know, you should have done that 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I think there needs to be flexibility. I really do. Mr. Chair, I think there needs to be flexibility, and I want to help the residents. Thank you.
Simon will agree, we're gonna be feeling the effects of Fiona for many, many years.
Yeah.
After our time. Simon, you have something to add?
Just that obviously, as you know, we like to think of ourselves in my little unit with Morgan and Taylor and Julia. You know, we like to think of ourselves as stewards of the urban forest, and we would love to plant trees in backyards everywhere. Nothing would give us greater pleasure to do that, and all those other things. We would be happy to put forward a budget for doing these things, but it would cost a significant amount of money. So there would have to be there would be a significant budget asked to go along with that. There's not within the current staffing capacity to do work on private property. In fact, we're understaffed for doing work on our own property currently. So
Anyway, I just wanted to bring it up. Trying to be proactive, trying to be visionary. And I just think at the end of the day, what I'm striving for here is flexibility. And I know sometimes you have to tighten up the parameters, but let's be as flexible as we possibly can be, because it only makes our residents that's much more enthusiastic about, you know, becoming involved in the community and improving the ambiance, quality of life, and the aesthetics. It's much healthier to have a lot of trees around. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Beck?
Yeah, just going back to the package, so it's about $200 a tree, 150 trees, $30,000, right? Is that just for the trees themselves? And then we're responsible for all the other mulch, compost, whatever additional products, all the labor? And is that a standard? Sorry, I'm not familiar with the tree prices. Is that a fair market price? $200 a tree?
through you, Mr. Chair, it's an exceptional price. It's like right now, a retail price you would pay significantly more than that for a tree of that size, and most of the time you can't get trees like that retail. It's extremely, but all of our suppliers give us significant discount on all of our products because we're bulk buying and we are good customers. So we do our best to continue that.
Score.
With that price, their root ball, I'm assuming, is that being delivered? Is that delivery included?
Yes. For you, Mr. Chair, it's a this year. That's the reason why Dutch Masters price was lower, was because they included the cost of shipping this time in the delivery. Previously, they charged shipping on top of that, and so this year they've decided not to do charge of shipping, and as a result, the price is cheaper.
And they're located where? Where are they located?
They're in Southern Ontario.
Ontario. Good. All right, it's been moved and seconded and passed on to council, so.
I think you got to say, Mr. Chair, we're in favor.
What?
Lots of times, motions can say, well, we're gonna move it on to council. I think you gotta be specific, you gotta say, we're in favor. Either you're in favor or you reject the motion.
You're nitpicking here, Councillor.
What?
I think you're nitpicking.
No, not really, because lots of times they'll move something on the council, say, well, I didn't vote for it, I just moved it on to council.
I don't get a vote. You guys voted to
Yeah.
move it on.
2-0.
Yeah,
Two
2-0,
nothing.
So noted as 2-0, I guess.
in favor.
And if committee was different, it would be noted in this part here. If committee was different than
The bottom
staff.
line, yeah.
Okay.
All right, new business. It's gonna be 2 items. Councillor Beck has 1 and I have 1, so go ahead,
Alright.
Councillor Beck.
So, I would like to make a request of our staff or some staff or somebody to, I would like to look at dedicating part of our active transportation path from down by the Hillsborough Bridge, down by where the lights are at the Hillsborough Bridge. It wheels out around Riverside Drive, carries on out past the hospital, out past Hillsborough Park, out past KFC, all the way out to Mount Edward Road with the active transportation path.
It's already there, no?
No, that's the path I'm referring to.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know which, I wanted to let you know which one I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I'm talking, I'd like to have that portion of the active transportation look into the possibility of naming it Josh Underhay Way in honor of Josh Underhay, who tragically passed away here back in 20 something, like 2015, 2016 maybe. Josh was a staunch advocate of active transportation, did a lot of work in terms of bringing a lot of what we have in terms of active transportation infrastructure in around the Charlottetown area. And so my request would be for professional staff to prepare a report to see if there is a possibility that we could look into having the transportation path, that section of the transportation path renamed in Josh's honor. So that's I guess it's kind of like a notice of motion or a request to have, yeah, you'd have to look at the naming policy. There would have to be some research done on that to see whether it fits, to see whether it's applicable. So that would be part of the research of that, would be looking at, is this a good fit? Is it possible? Is it doable? So that's really what I'm looking for staff to do, is to investigate that and to see, come back with a report and say this is, yes, it's doable, or no, it's not doable. I did have some preliminary conversations with Josh's widow and Josh's brother, and I told them that there is a process to follow, but they are supportive of it if it were to come to fruition. And I did tell them that I would be bringing it forth as a request at this meeting, and this would initiate the process to see whether it's something that could be done in honor of Josh. So it's very preliminary at this point, but it has to start somewhere, and this is my request today to start that process and see if that's a possibility that we could rename that segment of the active transportation path from Hillsborough Bridge out to Mount Edward Road in honor of Josh Underhay. That's my
Portion of that also include from the bypass out towards Brackley to the city limits, which is all part of the same trail, or?
Well, they're all kind of different. I mean, that path leads to the Confederation Trail. The Confederation Trail there is some work to be done here, because I think there is some involvement with the province that would have to be looked at this. So it's not a simple, yeah, let's just do it. There is some work that has to be done. There has to be some investigation done to see what the possibilities would be, but it would be that part of the active transportation route, not the Confederation Trail. It would be just that paved, starts on the west side of Riverside Drive, and then it cuts over to the east side of Riverside Drive. Yeah, that segment there.
staff, I assume, looks into that. Policy and the naming policy, okay?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, our team all is quite familiar with Josh Underhay and have worked with his brother Mitch through Bike Friendly Communities, and I think he's very well known as a cycling advocate for the city, and we will look into the naming rights policy, and we could look at a recommendation on what sections and how that might work. So if you leave it with us for a bit of time, we can put some thought into it.
Thank you. I have an item regarding the transit file update. The deputy is here as well for clarification, but there's a contract out there that we're hearing for that somebody's working on the transit file. So we're looking to see the transit, get an update on the contract. Who's working on it? Is there any timelines in place for this transit file? Because it's our understanding that the next contract is due to be launched in April of 2026. So just, can anybody provide an update on that transit file?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, so the plan is still to have an updated contract approved by council this fall so that we can make budget planning for April 2026. So that's still what's being planned. I don't wanna speak on behalf of the CAO I don't wanna speak for him on, so the way it works is the Capital Area Transit Coordinating Committee is what governs the transit negotiations and that file. And that's the 3 CAOs from the 3 municipalities. And I think you're aware there's an arrangement made that the CAO has a designate assigned, which is within the terms of reference that he is able to do that. But I would feel more comfortable not to speak on his behalf for him. So can I take that back and ask for
absolutely.
him to give you from his own mouth rather than
Yep.
through mine?
You can send it to the committee or to the council.
Yeah. Okay.
Give the details, that'd be great.
So to reiterate again, the way that governing body works is staff are the doers and bring forward information and reports and recommendation, but the governing body of the sign-offs on the larger transit file is the 3 CAOs from the municipalities or designates they assign to that file. So I don't wanna speak on behalf of that group.
Councillor Twill?
Trying to understand the process. So I understand that the capital region, CAOs, and 3 mayors get together and they round table different issues, different challenges, and discuss them. But correct me if I'm wrong, so as far as the actual contract, which involves, so we defer, the committee and city council defers to the capital region, which consists of the 3 mayors and the 3 CAOs, and they make the decisions. Even though we have to approve the budget items in the terms of reference, this is what the money's used for. So the committee doesn't make a recommendation. I understand, I'm trying to understand, so the committee does not make a recommendation to city council and city council votes on expenditures, especially if they're over 25,000. So if you're into an expenditure of this magnitude, we're not involved in that process, and council doesn't vote on that process. I'm at a loss here as to,
Which are you referring to,
I'm not sure.
Councillor Twill? I'm not sure
Confused.
what you're referring to.
well,
What expenditure magnitude are you referring to?
what's that you got there in front of you, Lana?
Oh, it was just a report from July, it was just an update on the temporary transit agreement, and then, which gave a bit of a bridge until the new contract is launched in April of 2026.
Okay, so,
We approved that.
the bridge we did, yeah.
Okay, so
that came before council.
Okay, so if that comes before council, then as far as whatever resources, it comes from what was approved by city council, right? In terms of, for example,
Clear on your questions.
well, okay, I'll get a little more specific. Who's working on the file? Okay, is there a contract? Who has a contract? Okay, what's the terms of reference? What's the timelines? What's the time frames? Who approved? Where was this approved? You mentioned the capital region, CAOs, 3 CAOs, and the 3 mayors. So I'm looking for a breakdown as to how this process actually works. What are we responsible for in terms of recommendations to city council? And what is the capital regions, what are they responsible for? And how does that actually function?
Yeah.
Like do we have 2 entities going here? Or do we got 1? I'm not clear now. I'm really not clear as to how this unfolds or how it's supposed to evolve. I'm really not clear. So I need, for my own peace of mind, I need a breakdown as to how the money's being spent, who's involved in the process, who's acting on the city of Charlottetown's behalf. I need a total breakdown. I want all that information.
I don't think those are questions that we should be answered here.
Pardon me?
Those are questions I think that should be answered by our CAO.
No, but still, Norman, this committee, but we're the recommending body, right? Whenever it comes to any type of agreements or anything, the recommendations come from this committee to city council. The CAO doesn't make a recommendation, we do. This body does. As elected representatives of this committee, we make recommendations to city council. That's how it works.
So I can add Mr. Chair? Yeah, I can add a little bit of clarity, but I'll just repeat the earlier message around who's working on the file and how much the timeline on that and what's the budget on that. I will let the CAO answer that question to you because it doesn't relate to me specifically. But the CATCC Coordinating Committee has been around since the inception of transit.
Yeah.
That's a long-standing agreement since transit started. The mayors aren't part of that. It is
They're
it's strictly the 3 CAOs from the municipalities. So that is a governing body to approve, council approves budget, and anytime we wanna spend more than $25,000 or add new routes and service, that goes to council and you approve budget for transit every year.
Yeah. Okay.
That's standard and that's status quo. But they also have regular CATCC meetings of that group, monthly, bi-monthly, to talk about the contract, the implementation of the service, is there complaints, is there accidents, how are we responding to the residents and those kinds of things. So that is CATCC, but I will bring forward your question.
Yeah, please.
For the CAO to respond about who's supporting the transit file.
So just as a follow-up, Mr. Chair, so does the city of Charlottetown decide, for example, we're gonna add new routes? I mean, we've heard from residents in East Royalty, we hear from them West Royalty, they're looking for new routes. It's always a challenge, in terms of how many people will actually use new routes in the city. Ones are being deleted. So who makes that decision? Does that recommendation again come to this committee and then this committee to city council? Or is that done through the capital region?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Tweel.
Yeah.
So there's multiple things. So we have a 10-year transit plan, which outlines priorities.
Right,
We make requests every year at budget time. So this year, if you recall, we went to budget and we said we would like $400,000 to expand service and Sundays at the hospital, more service to East Royalty, and we had a list for you to review.
Yeah.
That was cut down to like more than half.
Mhm.
So we communicated to council that that would be used predominantly for East Royalty. So that information does flow to council. You did see that and you did approve the budget for service expansion based on our recommendations.
Right,
So there's the plan, there's comments, we are constantly collecting input from residents that we want more service in our community, we want Sunday service, businesses want more service, so we collect all that information all the time.
Okay.
And that helps inform what we bring to council every year at budget time.
now, thank you. Now, when it comes to approving the actual implementation of a new revised plan for the transit routes, like East Royal as you referred to, does that come back to this committee to be approved? And then it goes to council?
Through you, Mr. Chair, so no, council does not need to sign off on the time the bus stops and how many times. Basically, you tell us how much money we have to do that, and then our staff meets with the transit operator and meets and says, okay, what can we achieve with this amount of money? How many times a day can it be serviced? How many stops can we, well, there's standards for stop spacing, so this is the road we wanna service, how many stops is there
So-
based on the length of that road?
So the new routes, the actual new routes, don't come back for us to discuss, saying, this, a report from staff to the committee, saying, we're going to approve, a number of new routes, whether it be East Royalty, West Royalty, part of Winslow, or Sherwood, Parkdale, Hillsborough Park. So that doesn't come back to us to discuss and approve.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so you approve what community, what service is being provided, so we are now servicing East Royalty, and then staff and the operator work on the logistics of how to do that.
On the logistics. But again, please help me, it doesn't come back to us.
Council does not approve the specifics on
We
how many.
don't approve the routes.
No, no.
Okay, and I'll tell you why I asked that, because I read an article that CBC did a week ago. And it was done, and I said to myself, I don't recall us approving these routes and these new additions. But you're telling me now, it doesn't need the committee or city council's approval. It's,
The
We appro-
service does, not the specifics. You
Pardon me?
approved service to East Royalty.
we approve the service, but again, we don't discuss the implementation of the new routes and some of the routes that were deleted. Correct?
Correct. We
Okay.
welcome your input if you have questions.
No,
or
no,
comments,
you know
but
what, I
we
just
work
read
on
it,
that with the
I
operator.
read it, I said, I don't recall discussing the specifics. And now you're telling me that we don't get into the specifics. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. No, I don't think we ever have been involved with routes.
Pardon me?
We haven't been involved with routes in the time that I've been here, so,
Well,
No.
yeah, okay.
so.
Right.
Motion to adjourn. Councilor
Thank you.
Beck? Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.
No problem.